Ayanda walked quickly through the busy streets of Mombasa, her small bag swinging by her side, sweat already forming on her forehead. She had just finished her long shift at the tiny tailoring shop where she worked part-time, and her mind was on the errands waiting for her at home. Her younger sister needed books for school, and her mother had asked her to help prepare dinner. Every minute mattered. As she hurried along, weaving through the crowd, she caught sight of an elderly woman struggling ahead. The woman's arms were loaded with heavy grocery bags, the kind that looked like they could tear apart any second. The sun blazed down mercilessly, making the woman stop now and then to catch her breath. Ayanda slowed her pace. She recognized the signs of exhaustion, the shaky steps, the bent shoulders, the quiet sighs. For a moment, she told herself she couldn't stop. She was already late and her family was waiting. She pressed her lips together, forcing herself to walk faster, but her eyes kept drifting back to the old woman. Something inside her wouldn't let her move on. The image of her own mother flashed in her mind, carrying firewood home from the village years ago. Ayanda had promised herself she would never let an elder suffer if she could help. Yet here she was, walking away. Her steps grew heavy with guilt. She stopped, took a deep breath, and turned back. "Excuse me, Mama," Ayanda said gently, stepping forward. "Please, let me help you with those." The woman looked up, surprised, her tired eyes softening with gratitude. Without hesitation, Ayanda took the bags from her trembling hands. They were heavier than she had imagined, the weight pressing into her palms, but she adjusted them quickly. The woman smiled, a smile that seemed to carry both relief and blessing. As they began walking side by side, Ayanda pushed her worries aside. The family errand could wait a few more minutes. In her heart, she knew she had made the right choice. Little did she know, this small act of kindness would change her life forever. Ayanda shifted the heavy bags carefully in her arms as she walked slowly beside the old woman. The streets of Mombasa buzzed with life, vendors calling out their prices, children running barefoot, the smell of roasted maize filling the air. But in that moment, it felt like the two of them were in their own quiet world. The woman glanced at her with gentle eyes, her face lined with years of experience. "My daughter," the woman began softly. "What is your name?" "Ayanda," she replied with a small smile. "Ayanda," the woman repeated as if tasting the word. "And what do you do? You look like a hardworking girl." Ayanda hesitated before answering. "I work part-time in a small tailoring shop. I sew clothes for customers, but the pay is not much. Still, I am grateful. It helps me support my family." The woman nodded thoughtfully, her eyes never leaving Ayanda's face. "And your dreams? What do you hope for yourself?" Ayanda let out a small laugh, not mocking but almost shy. "Dreams feel far away sometimes. I want to have my own tailoring shop one day, a place where people come to get clothes made with love. But right now it's not possible. Most of what I earn goes to help my younger sister with her schooling. She is bright, and I want her to have a better future." There was silence for a while, broken only by their footsteps and the rustle of the grocery bags. The woman's face softened even more. "You remind me of myself when I was young," she said quietly, "always thinking of others before myself." Ayanda lowered her gaze, embarrassed by the praise. "It's just what family does," she whispered. The woman gave a small, knowing smile. "Not everyone thinks like that, child." As they neared the woman's home, Ayanda felt lighter despite the weight of the bags. For the first time in a long while, she had spoken her heart out to someone who listened with warmth. She didn't know why, but something about this woman felt different, like their meeting was no accident. They reached the gate of a modest house tucked between two taller buildings, its faded blue paint peeling slightly, yet it carried a homely charm. A clay pot with wilting flowers sat on the step, and the air smelled faintly of freshly baked bread. Ayanda carefully set the bags down just inside the gate, wiping the sweat from her brow. The old woman exhaled with relief, her hands trembling slightly as she rested them on the wooden gatepost. "Thank you, my daughter," she said warmly, her voice filled with gratitude. "You don't know how much this means to me." Ayanda shook her head. "It's nothing, Mama. I was just passing by." The woman studied her for a moment, then reached into one of the grocery bags. She pulled out a small brown packet, neatly tied with a strip of old cloth. She placed it gently into Ayanda's hands. "Here, take this. They are homemade biscuits. I baked them this morning." Ayanda hesitated, her eyes widening. "Oh no, Mama, please keep them for yourself." But the woman insisted, pushing the packet toward her with a firm nod. "Accept it, child. It's a small thank you from me." Ayanda finally smiled and took the packet, feeling the warmth of the biscuit still seeping through the wrapping. She opened her mouth to ask the woman's name, but before she could, the old lady gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder and stepped inside. "God bless you," she said softly, and with that she closed the gate. Ayanda stood there for a moment, staring at the modest house. She thought of asking more, but something about the woman's calm departure told her not to. With a shrug, she tucked the packet safely into her bag and turned back toward the road. As she walked away, Ayanda didn't give it much thought. To her, it was just another simple encounter on a hot afternoon. a kind gesture exchanged between strangers. She had no idea that the small packet in her hand carried a memory that would soon change everything. The following morning, Ayanda tied her headscarf neatly and walked toward the central market, a packet of money tucked safely into her pocket. She needed to buy fabric for her sewing orders, and the market was the heart of Mombasa's daily life. Colorful stalls, loud bargaining voices, and the smell of spices hanging heavy in the air. Women sold fresh vegetables, men stacked crates of fruit, and children darted through the crowd with baskets. As Ayanda stepped between the rows of cloth vendors, she paused to run her hand across a roll of bright kitten J fabric. Before she could call out to the seller, she overheard a group of vendors speaking in hushed, worried tones behind their stall. They say inspectors are coming next week, one man muttered, his brow furrowed. And if things don't meet the new standards, many of us could lose our stalls. Another woman clicked her tongue in frustration. Forget inspections. The real problem is the rumor that some big investor wants to buy the whole marketplace. If that happens, the rents will rise, and small people like us will be thrown out. Ayanda's heart tightened as she listened. She glanced around and saw other sellers shaking their heads, their faces lined with worry. Mothers with babies strapped to their backs whispered nervously, while old men leaned on their walking sticks, muttering about unfairness. But this market is our life, another vendor said, his voice breaking. My father worked here before me. Where will we go if they take it away? Ayanda felt a pang in her chest. She thought of her own fragile income, the way every coin she earned was stretched to cover her sister's schooling and the household needs. If the market truly changed hands, not only would the vendors suffer, but she too would lose access to the affordable cloth she needed for her work. Clutching the small packet of money in her pocket, Ayanda lowered her gaze. The busy market around her suddenly felt heavier, as though everyone's future hung in the air. She couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something big was about to happen. Ayanda balanced a bundle of fabric in her arms as she made her way deeper into the crowded market. The noise was almost overwhelming. Vendors shouting their prices, customers haggling, goats bleating in the distance. She was just about to stop at her favorite tailor's stall when a familiar face caught her eye. There, standing beneath the shade of a mango tree near the spice stalls, was the old woman she had helped the day before, Mama Zuri. But this time, she looked very different. Gone were the tired steps and overloaded grocery bags. Instead, she stood tall and graceful, dressed in a crisp white headscarf that framed her face elegantly. Her long wrapper shimmered faintly in the sunlight, and her presence seemed to draw people toward her. Ayanda's face lit up. Mama, she called warmly, weaving through the crowd. It's so good to see you again. Mama Zuri turned, her eyes softening with recognition. Ah, Ayanda, she greeted with a smile. You are here for cloth, I suppose? Yes, Ayanda said, nodding quickly. I didn't expect to see you here. Before Ayanda could ask more, she noticed something unusual. The vendors around them were treating Mama Zuri with a quiet kind of respect. Men who were usually loud and argumentative bowed their heads slightly as she passed. Women shifted to make room for her, their voices dropping as though in reverence. Even the market elders leaned closer when she spoke, nodding attentively to her quiet words. Ayanda blinked in surprise. Yesterday, she had thought Mama Zuri was just another weary old woman in need of help. But now, the atmosphere around her told a different story. She seemed important, though no one said exactly why. Still, Ayanda pushed the thought aside and greeted her with genuine warmth. To her, Mama Zuri was simply the kind stranger who had offered her biscuits. Yet deep down, curiosity stirred. Who exactly was this woman that even hardened vendors treated with such careful respect? Ayanda smiled politely, but her mind was already full of questions she didn't dare to ask. That afternoon, the usually noisy market grew strangely quiet as a bell was rung near the central square. Word spread quickly that the management wanted to address all vendors. Men left their weighing scales, women paused their bargaining, and customers stood aside to watch. Ayanda, holding her fabric tightly against her chest, followed the crowd and squeezed herself into the back, curious but uneasy. The square filled with vendors, their faces tense with worry. Whispers floated in the air. Everyone feared the same thing. It must be rent hikes, someone muttered. Or maybe the investor rumor is true, another replied. The thought of losing their stalls made people shift nervously, their eyes darting toward the platform where the market officials stood. One of the officials, a stern-faced man in a dark coat, stepped forward. He cleared his throat, glancing at the restless crowd. We ask for your patience, he said loudly, his voice echoing across the square. Important matters concerning the future of this market will be shared today. Murmurs rose immediately, heavy with fear. Ayanda clutched her fabric tighter, her heart beating fast. She thought of the vendors who depended on these stalls to feed their families. Even her own work relied on their fabrics being affordable. If the market changed, what would happen to all of them? Then, something unexpected happened. From the side of the platform, Mama Zuri walked slowly toward the front. She wore the same crisp headscarf Ayanda had seen earlier, her steps steady and confident. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers rising again. Why is she up there? Someone asked. Who is she to speak? Ayanda's eyes widened as she watched. She had thought of Mama Zuri as a kind stranger, but the way the vendors leaned forward with sudden attention told her there was more to this woman than she had realized. When Mama Zuri reached the center of the platform, the officials stepped back, giving her space. The air grew thick with silence, every ear straining to hear. Ayanda's pulse quickened. Whatever was about to be said, she knew it would change everything. All eyes were fixed on Mama Zuri as she stood tall at the front of the platform, her hands folded calmly in front of her. The market square was so quiet that even the distant sound of a hawker's bell seemed far away. Ayanda felt her breath catch in her throat. Why would this elderly woman, who had once struggled with heavy grocery bags, be given such authority to speak before the market officials themselves? Mama Zuri lifted her chin slightly and let her eyes sweep across the crowd. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, warm, and commanding at the same time. My children, she began, I have walked among you, seen your struggles, and heard your fears. You worry about investors, about rising rents, about losing the very ground you stand on. A ripple of murmurs ran through the crowd. She paused, letting the tension sink in before continuing. But today I want to end your worries. This marketplace, every stall, every corner, every path, belongs to me. The crowd gasped. Some stared at her in disbelief. Others exchanged hurried whispers. Ayanda's heart pounded in her chest. She could hardly believe her ears. The frail old woman she had offered help to yesterday was claiming ownership of the entire marketplace? Mama Zuri raised a hand for silence. Yes, I am the rightful owner of this market. For years, I allowed managers to run it while I kept my identity hidden. I wanted to know the truth, not the polished stories told to those in power, but the real struggles you face every day. So I came among you quietly to listen and to see with my own eyes. Her words carried weight, and the respect in the vendor's eyes now made sense. Ayanda felt a rush of shock and admiration. The woman she had thought was helpless was, in fact, powerful beyond anything she imagined. Ayanda clutched her fabric tightly, her mind spinning. She realized in that instant that helping Mama Zuri had not been a small act of kindness. It had been the start of something far greater than she could have ever foreseen. The marketplace was still buzzing from Mama Zuri's shocking announcement when she raised her hand again, signaling for silence. The noise slowly faded until only the sound of the wind rustling through the fabric stalls remained. Her eyes swept across the sea of faces, pausing briefly before settling on one person standing quietly near the back. Ayanda, there is something else I must share with you, Mama Zuri began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the square. Just yesterday, when the sun was merciless and my arms were heavy with groceries, one young woman chose kindness over her own need. She stopped, even though she was in a hurry, and carried my burden without asking for anything in return. Ayanda froze, her cheeks warming as hundreds of heads turned in her direction. She wanted to shrink into the crowd, but it was too late. People were already pointing gently, whispering her name. Mama Zuri's expression softened, her smile filled with genuine affection. That young woman is Ayanda. She did not know who I was. To her, I was simply an old woman in need, and yet she chose to help. Not for recognition, not for reward, but from the goodness of her heart. The crowd erupted into murmurs of admiration. Some vendors nodded approvingly, others clapped softly, and a few women smiled at Ayanda with pride. Ayanda's heart raced. She had never imagined that such a small act would be spoken of in front of the entire marketplace. Mama Zuri lifted her voice again, stronger this time. It is people like Ayanda, humble, hardworking, and compassionate, that represent the true spirit of this market. As we move forward, it is such people who must be part of its future. We cannot build on greed alone. We must build on kindness. The applause grew louder, echoing off the walls of the square. Ayanda lowered her eyes, both embarrassed and moved, clutching her bundle of fabric tighter. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as just another tailor, but as someone who mattered. She didn't yet know what this recognition would bring, but deep inside, she sensed her life was about to change forever. The market square was alive with applause, the echo of clapping hands still hanging in the air when Mama Zuri raised her hand again. The crowd slowly quieted, every eye waiting for her next words. Ayanda stood frozen, unsure of whether to stay hidden in the back or step forward, her heart beating fast. Mama Zuri's gaze found her again, warm and unwavering. Ayanda, she said firmly, her voice steady but kind. Yesterday you carried my bags. Today I want to carry your dream. The crowd gasped softly, murmurs rising in surprise. Ayanda blinked, unsure she had heard correctly. You told me, Mama Zuri continued, that you work hard as a tailor but struggle to earn enough. You spoke of your dream of having your own shop. a place where your skills could grow and where your family's needs could be met. Dreams like that deserve a chance. She paused, her words sinking into every ear in the square. I am offering you a shop space in this market, she declared. For 1 full year, you will pay no rent. Use that time to build your business, to prove your craft, and to grow into the woman you were meant to be. A stunned silence swept over the crowd before voices rose in astonishment. Some clapped again, others whispered excitedly, and a few even cheered. Ayanda's hands trembled as she pressed the fabric bundle tightly against her chest. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. Mama, I don't know what to say, she stammered, stepping forward slightly. This is more than I ever dreamed. Thank you so much. Mama Zuri smiled, her expression filled with both pride and certainty. Do not thank me, child. You earned this with your kindness. Now use it well. Not just for yourself, but to inspire others. The words struck deep into Ayanda's heart. For the first time, her dream felt real, tangible within her reach. She could already see the future unfolding. A shop with her name, filled with colors, fabrics, and hope. Her life was changing before her eyes. The months passed quickly, and the once scared dream Ayanda carried in her heart had bloomed into reality. Her tailoring shop, tucked neatly in the corner of the marketplace, was now filled with the hum of sewing machines and the chatter of customers. Bright rolls of fabric lined the shelves, and colorful dresses hung proudly in the display. Every morning, when she opened the doors, a line of customers already waited, women bringing cloth for tailoring, men requesting new shirts, and mothers asking for school uniforms. Ayanda no longer worked alone. With the shop growing busier each day, she had hired 2 assistants, both young women from struggling families. She taught them not just how to stitch, but how to take pride in their work. Seeing them earn their own income filled her with joy. If someone gave me a chance, she often told them, I must do the same for others. Her business was no longer just about clothes. It had become a small light of hope. On weekends, Ayanda used her extra earnings to help other young women set up small stalls, guiding them with what she had learned. Her sister, once uncertain about finishing school, now walked with her head high, encouraged by Ayanda's success. Their family's life was changing in ways she had only dared to imagine before. But despite her growth, Ayanda never forgot the moment that had sparked it all. The day she carried the groceries of an elderly woman in the hot sun. Even now, whenever she saw an elder struggling with bags in the market, she would rush to help, no matter how busy her schedule was. Some people smiled, others blessed her, but Ayanda only carried on, knowing deep inside that kindness had a way of circling back. One afternoon, as she locked up her shop and looked around the bustling market, she felt tears sting her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She whispered softly to herself, kindness always finds its way back to you. And she knew it was true, for her life was living proof.